Welcome to San Antonio's Influence Magazine show, the premier talk show where we introduce you to influential individuals doing significant work in the city of San Antonio and surrounding areas. Celebrate the spirit of business, leadership, and innovation. If this is your first time joining us and you'd like more information, you can find us at influencesa.com. That's influencesa.com. Like us on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Pinterest, and for this particular episode of the show, all future and past episodes of the show, pull up your YouTube search bar, toss in San Antonio's Influence Magazine show. When you get there, please subscribe, give us a like or a thumbs up, and hit that bell so that you don't miss any future episodes of the show. Welcome to today's show. I'm your host, Cedric Fisher. Servant leadership. No one personifies it quite like our former district attorney and one of San Antonio's leading criminal defense lawyers, Nico LaHood. When we come back, you won't want to miss this. We'll sit down and have a conversation with Nico. We'll be right back.
I spent 7 decades looking at the world through perfect eyes, but I never truly saw anything until the darkness came. They called it vision loss. I called it the beginning of sight.
What if losing your sight meant finally learning to see? At 81, Alora waits in darkness, remembering 7 decades of light. From a Texas farm where lightning nearly claimed her infant life, to breaking barriers as one of the first female battalion commanders in military history. From cross-country adventures with her beloved car, Lady Blue, to 12 years caring for the love of her life through terminal illness. 7 times, vision left her. 7 times, something else arrived. Lucky pennies appearing in impossible places. Feathers floating where no birds fly. Songs playing when no music should exist. As macular degeneration slowly steals her physical sight, Ellie discovers truths that eyes could never reveal. That love transcends death. That strength grows through surrender. That the clearest vision comes from within. Now, confined to a government facility for the blind in dystopian America, facing one final procedure, Ellie must answer the ultimate question. Is this ending or beginning? Death or transcendence? Darkness or the first real light she's ever seen? Sight by Alexandria Claremont. Some journeys can only be seen with closed eyes. Available now from Cedric D. Fisher and Company Publishers.
Nico, welcome to the show. It's good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So, obviously you're a brand in town. Most folks in San Antonio have heard of you on some level somewhere. This is a global show, however, and for those folks in the viewing audience who don't know you, tell us a little bit about your background.
Well, it depends how detailed you want me to go, but I've been born and raised here, San Antonio, Texas. I've been here 53 years so far. I grew up, spent a lot of time on the south side of town, which is kind of an economically challenged town where my grandma grew up. My mom went to Harlandale High School on that side of town. My pop grew up on the west side on a street called Morales Street. He was a first generation Lebanese person of descent, and he was the first American in my pop's family born here, but of Lebanese descent. And so I had a good life here. Went through some tragedies, some challenges, self-imposed challenges that I don't know if you want to talk about or not. And the tragedy of my brother's passing happened as well, helped shape me. I grew up in a very religious environment, but really didn't have a relationship in what I thought I believed. And then decided to go to law school to follow my pop's footsteps. Went to law school, decided for some reason to get into politics, ran for office. Second time was elected district attorney here in Bexar County, Texas. Bexar County is the county that surrounds San Antonio. And went through a bunch of political battles. because I'm not a good politician, but I think I was a good public servant because I don't tell people what they want to hear. And served, and then came back into private practice. Have 4 children. I married a woman way too good for me. She's a blessing in my life. We've been married 19 years.
Nice.
Going for 70, God willing. And we have 4 children, 17, 15, 12, and 9. Our 15-year-old is on the spectrum of autism, so we go through the world of special needs, and we've done that, and that's a whole different journey in talk in itself. And I love Jesus. I love people. I'm not afraid to tell people truth. I love doing what I do as a profession, whether it's prosecuting or defense, but in the profession of law that I think gets a bad rap, which I think the profession deserves it sometimes, because there's some people in there that don't honor the profession that I love. But it's a good profession. It's an honorable profession. And so we bring that type of integrity to our clients. We're a criminal defense firm. The whole firm are former prosecutors, which is very unique. And we believe we bless our clients with the way we look at them, and we know that our involvement in their case has a lasting effect on their family and their children and their children's children. And we care about our results too. So I'm honored to work with them.
Good. So we go way back, and I know some of your story, a lot of your story. So at 22, you were drugs, and then at 42, you became DA.
Yeah, I can figure that, right?
Huge transition, right?
What was 22? I've never, believe it, people don't believe it, but they don't have to believe it. I don't care. I've never done a drug in my life, but I sold a bunch of them. And so I was arrested for selling drugs, and had a weapon with me, and they were threatening to send me to prison. And so this whole label of drug dealer, criminal, piece of whatever, fill in the blank. My pop was a lawyer at the time, so that was the whole journey in itself of what my pop must have gone through. Being in the justice system as a defense lawyer, he was a judge for mental health court in that mental health hospital, and was very respected. And then of course here comes this kid, like an idiot, getting arrested for selling drugs. But then, as you said, years later, there's a story of redemption, which is very prevalent in the Christian faith. I was elected as the district attorney, the chief law enforcement officer in the same town that I was arrested for selling drugs. I don't credit myself to that, other than I just agreed to do life with a different lens on, a different worldview, a different set of ideas, because ideas have consequences, as I tell people all the time. And so I was humbled to serve, and there was a strong redemption story that I told people, and I think was part of my campaign was about redemption. So there's a restorative side to the justice system, and then there's a punitive side. And you have to have both, and you can't have one without the other. You have to know when to be harsh, because the justice system should be harsh. Lady Justice, everything means something on that symbol there. It comes from the goddess Themis, which I don't believe in Greek goddesses or gods, but back then there was a polytheistic society in ancient Greece, and the goddess Themis was the goddess of order. And so the justice system should bring order to a community. And everything means something. So the blindfold obviously means I don't care about your political affiliation, I don't care about your religion, I don't care about your persuasion. I'm not supposed to look at any of that stuff. I'm going to match the law with facts and try to reach this elusive concept called justice. What does that mean? Did we get it right? And the sword on the right side means that the justice system, when appropriate, should be harsh. The foot, if you notice her foot, she's crushing a serpent. And the serpent is, regardless of your faith, is the representation of evil. So the justice system should crush out evil in a society. In between her, she's crushing the serpent, but underneath the serpent is a book. It's the law. And Lady Justice, the justice system, you should have a command of the law and understand what those laws mean. But look at her left hand. But in her left hand, she holds the scales. She's got to balance it all out, that not every situation is the same. And she has societal pressures. She has, dare I say, political pressures. She has people. She's dealing with individuals, and not everybody should be treated the same. They should be treated equally, but not the same. It's different, because every scenario is different. And she has to balance it all out to reach that elusive concept called justice, and every situation is unique. So I really believe in that, what that represents in my spirit, in my heart, my mind, will, and emotions. Whether I was a prosecutor or whether I'm a defense attorney, we still need people that understand what the purpose of the justice system is.
Excellent description. I'd never heard that, but it makes a lot of sense. It's very good. So you come from somewhat of a legal dynasty. Your father was a judge. Your brother Mark is a state representative.
And a lawyer.
And a lawyer as well, lawyer, right? Too. So do you guys find yourself having legal discussions around the dinner table? And
we kind of, not really. They'll ask, Mark and I talk about current events, and we'll talk about politics because he's in it, and I'm honored that he has allowed me to speak into his ear and be a counselor to him. You know, I was always the one on the stage. I was the DA. I was running for this and that, and he was kind of in the background. And I'm honored to switch that role, and to be there for him and to give him counsel. And thankfully he listens and he honors me that way. But he's his own man, and so he's going to make his own decisions because he's got to deal with his own decisions. But we'll talk about legal stuff if an issue's there. But it's not, we don't get into fights over it because we're pretty equally minded.
Good, good. You refer to yourself as Autism Daddy, and your son, what's his name?
Michael.
Michael, right, has taught you a lot just through fathering him. What are some of the things he's taught you?
Oh, patience. I mean, I'm wrapped in flesh.
I too have a special needs child, so
yeah,
I can relate.
Yeah. So, you know, you always think to yourself, oh, what do you want, boy or girl? Oh, as long as they're healthy. What if they're not? You know, what do you do there? And so I believe the Lord has used Michael to be, aside from God's word, my greatest teacher. Patience, unconditional love, perspective, empathy, sympathy, everything. I mean, after my brother passed away, I can be pretty stoic, can be cold. I'm intense at times. I hope appropriately. I hope as I've matured and aged in this world, matured hopefully and grown. But Michael has taught me patience that I don't have. I was not a patient person. It was immediate now, which is part of the reason why I got in trouble when I was younger, because I wanted what I saw my pop and other people had, but I wanted it now. Why does a 22-year-old get it? You do stupid stuff. Now, these days, with entrepreneurship and free market capitalism and opportunity, young people can, start businesses, and sky's the limit. And I love that about society today. There's a lot of things I don't like about society today, but that I do.
Yeah.
But Michael's taught me a lot, and he's taught my children a lot. My children are different kids because of their brother Michael and what they've had to learn, and meltdowns and late nights and not a lot of sleeping and the stares and the looks and the cruel comments. Just it's different, and so I'm his voice because he can't speak, and so I pray for wisdom because I want to make sure that I represent not only Michael well, but obviously as me be an openly professing Christian, that matters to me that I represent God well. I don't always do it well. I mean, I'm wrapped in flesh. I'm human, but I strive to do it well.
Christianity is a big part of your life, and you've kind of stepped into servant leadership. What was that original influence? Was it your parents who kind of took you to church or kind of got you involved in church activities? And then as a servant leader, what kind of calling led you there? Because not everybody wants to get on a stage or in front of a microphone.
Yeah, so I was born and raised in a denominational environment, a religious environment, so I'd always had Christian, Judeo-Christian ethos and kind of mindset principles shown to me. I went to Catholic school all my life. But I really didn't have a relationship. I didn't understand my faith. I always tell people, rules without relationship breeds rebellion. Because you don't know what the rules are for, and you don't understand it. My kids, because I have a relationship with them, they understand Papi's rules. They call me Papi. They understand Papi's rules, and they understand it. As they get older, they understand it more. They know that I'm insanely in love with them. If you ask any one of my kids, why do I love you so much? And they'll say, just because, Papi. You always tell me that. I go, don't forget it, just because. There's no condition in my love. I have expectations of you, there's a difference, but there's no condition in my love for you. And they all know that. But I didn't know that. I didn't understand that's how God, so for me, I was just told, you believe this is your faith. Well, then it's not by definition faith if it's not mine. I don't want to be told what to believe. I want to believe it. So then I get arrested for selling drugs. Mike gets murdered in my driveway. My older brother, Mike, we called him Mike. His name was Michael, but we call him Mike. We call my son Michael. And I went into this tailspin of anger and hate. I was angry at God. I held him in contempt, but I didn't have the guts to tell him. So I took it out on everybody else. I always tell people you'll never live beyond what you believe, and you can't give what you don't have. And so I didn't know what I believed. I believed that if God is good, how could he allow this evil? So I went down that road, very in depth. But I believed that he was true, and that if I questioned him and was angry at him and cussed him out, which I did many times in my mind as if he couldn't read my mind, that he would punish me for that instead of try to nurture me and say, I can take it. Bring me all your anger and hatred and questions and all that. I didn't understand that. So at some point, you just kind of get sick and tired of getting sick and tired. I was succeeding in the world. I made it through law school by God's grace. I was building a practice. I was making a reputation of myself. I was building a reputation as a trial lawyer. But I couldn't have a good, meaningful relationship because you can't give what you don't have. I didn't realize it was Matthew 22:36 at the time. But so then at some point I just said, all right, I'm gonna give this religion, quote unquote, a try, because my way sucks. Yes, I'm doing this. Yes, I'm building a career. Yes, I'm doing this, but I have no meaning in life. And I love the idea of my children that I didn't have already at the time, but I knew that I was bankrupt and that I would not be able to give them what they deserve. I would have been a better daddy than the crap we see out there today, the standard. But I wouldn't have been the daddy that I know in my heart I wanted to be, but I just didn't know. And so I went on this journey in my early 30s to really push back on my faith. What do I even have a faith? And I studied Hindu, Buddhism, Islam, atheism, you name it, pantheism. I had to, because I had to look at evidence. I look at evidence for a living. And so I approached my faith evidentially. I started with intelligent design versus natural selection through random mutation. And then, okay, if there's an intelligent designer, now who is it? Who's the designer? Mm-hmm. Which religion, which worldview, which ideology has it right? And I gave everyone a fair shot.
Yeah.
I ended up with Christianity.
And ended up with Christian, as a Christian.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes,
and then servant leadership, which is kind of deciding that, you've got a voice and you're going to use it for the good of the kingdom. How did you decide to answer that call?
Well, I just think it's a duty. I think manhood is not toxic if it's biblical. I think it's a beautiful thing, and I think women should embrace it. A true man, a real man. Not the BS standards that we see today. And a man shouldn't be weak. A man should be sacrificial. A man should be prepared to die for people that he's entrusted with. It's called stewardship. Die to himself, die to his own ambitions, die to his own selfishness, and then physically die if he has to. If someone has to leave this earth, it's the man. In my opinion, this is the way I live my life, and I honor my wife and serve her and my children. But I remember I was I was complaining. I'm not sure the language I can use here, so I'll keep it PG for you, Cedric. But I was at a luncheon with a bunch of lawyers, and I was complaining, grumbling about the DA at the time and the system and how it was broken, and I had all these ideas, and I'm on my soapbox, and somebody who ended up being a judge, Ray Olivari, he ended up being a district court judge in the 144th. Beautiful dude. He passed on. But he goes, those are good ideas, Nico. Why don't you run for DA? I was like, no, are you kidding me? I can't be DA. What are you talking about? Then I tried a case in front of Judge Juanita Vasquez Garner in 399th years later. We got a not guilty. It was a very difficult case. And I'm there doing my soapbox again, complaining. And she goes, Nico, why don't you run for DA? And I was like, what are you talking about, man? You can't. And she was Republican, he was Democrat. So I was like, wait a minute, so I'm getting it from both sides. And then that seed was planted, and I said, why can't I run for DA? And I had my plan. I wanted to be some big, bad criminal defense lawyer, make a bunch of money, and be influential and all that stuff, which is not bad if you don't idolize that stuff and use it for good. But then I said, why can't I do this? And then I ran it by a few people, and they said, you can't run for DA. I go, why? Because you were arrested for selling drugs, remember? I was like, does it disqualify me? I'm looking at the statute. It doesn't disqualify me. I've been practicing law long enough, and this, that, and the other. No, I'm not going to vote for you. You're going to run for DA. And so they started, and that just fired me up even more, And I hope I did it for the right reasons. I know I did in my heart, because I went through a lot of fights for it. But then I prayed about it. And at that time, I was already a committed Christ follower. I prayed about it. And my wife gave me I remember the day my wife gave me the green light, and she didn't even realize she gave me the green light, and I didn't turn back.
Very good. We're going to take a break. We're here with Nico LaHood. We'll be right back. You've managed 500 lawyers as a DA over the county, and now you're back to being, I want to say, just a defense or criminal defense lawyer. How has a transition been going from managing a group of folks like that to handling one and just being a defense?
I mean, obviously your organizational charts differently, right? So we had 500 members, 200 lawyers, 57 investigators, paralegals, support staff, things of that nature. So it's 500 members altogether, but 200 lawyers. But here we have 14, and it's grown. I mean, over the 6.5 years. I mean, we didn't start off with 14 because you're kind of starting from scratch, but it's different. My leadership style is the same, but I had to adjust it. When you have a big organization like that, you have a trickle-down theory, but the culture needs to be the same. As a leader, you need to be consistent. That's what I tell people all the time. People need to trust your character, because if they trust your character, they're going to trust your decisions. And so it's got to go back. And what I mean by character, we live in a world that cares so much about our reputation, and your reputation is what other people think about you. Your character is who you are. We live in a society where your reputation and your character, they're off. And I've seen it in the justice system, in politics, and all that crap. So my job, what I've worked on for years, and I advocate to men especially, and women, is work hard to get your reputation to be a true reflection of your character, right? Then that's when you know you're being consistent. And so I've done that, but obviously when I correct people in a smaller organization, it has more of a chilling effect versus when you have 500 people there. You can vent to top executives, and then it trickles down, and then, oh, Nico said this and that. So you just have to be more cautious and think about that your words matter, especially in a smaller group. It gets around quicker, and it's more personal because you're interacting with people, personally on a daily basis, versus in 500 members, there was a handful of people that I saw every day. There was another group of people that I saw pretty regularly. There was another people that was periodically, and there's other. It's just such a big organization. Not that I thought I was above anybody. It's just kind of the circles I was in and what I had to do but I always walked around, and I would sit with people and ask them about their family and just how their work is doing and how can I help them do their job better and serve the community better. And few people criticized that, but I did. It wasn't for show. There was no cameras. I just really wanted them to come to work with a purpose and know that they had support from not that I'm better than anybody, but from the organizational structure of the DA's office. So, but it's different. But I'm not different. People here, they worked with me here. They worked with me in the DA's office, and they'll tell you that, I'm the same.
You're the same Nico.
Right. Hopefully maturing and growing. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
I have not arrived. Trust me.
We're all a work in progress,
Yes,
right?
I have not arrived.
So you teach at police academies at times.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel is the biggest misconception for young folks about law enforcement?
Well, there's the profession, and then there's people, individuals in there. So the profession is a good profession. Who doesn't think that law enforcement as a profession is good? I am very pro law enforcement, but I'm also pro accountability. No one's above the law, but no one's below the law. Remember the blindfold? It means something to me, and I actually mean it. So I think I wish people would really look at the profession. And so because of social media, which can be a force for good, but can be a force for evil also. You take one incident that's horrible, and someone should be held accountable, and it goes everywhere, and then it influences people, and then they wrongfully impose that person's poor actions on everybody, and that's not just. That there's no scales in that scenario, and the blindfold has gone up and it's not down, or it's made out of mesh, and that's not the way I look at it. I mean, there's good and bad lawyers, there's good and bad doctors, there's good and bad media people, there's good and bad everything, right? And so I just encourage people to really understand what the profession is, and it's to bring order to a society, and it's to allow people to have these political debates, maybe and in a safe manner, so we can disagree and try to persuade each other. I believe in free thought, and I'm a huge advocate of free speech. And so I enjoyed that. I enjoyed hopefully molding when I had the opportunity to do it, police officers, and I've taught at different academies from ACOG to San Antonio Police Academy. And I've had people come up to me and say, "Yeah, I like the way your perspective on it." I hope it's just a very objective perspective, balanced. Not that I'm trying to be balanced. I'm trying to be truthful and genuine to the profession. And when you do that, the scales balance themselves out when you honor what you're supposed to do. We had a law enforcement integrity unit when I was a DA, and that was to either exonerate an officer if they were wrongfully accused or prosecute them if they were guilty. And it was a truth-finding mission. We didn't name it something, civil rights this or that. I wasn't trying to play to politics. Law enforcement integrity. I want integrity in law enforcement. And law enforcement people want integrity in law enforcement. I want integrity in the law business, in the legal business, because people don't think much of lawyers, and I get it. I can see why. So we helped exonerate and show truth and put someone back on the street so they can serve their families and serve our community if they didn't do anything wrong. If they did something wrong and they abused their authority, then they had problems on their hands because we were tenacious about prosecuting them.
I want you to think about this question. What's the one thing that people don't know about you, but should?
Should? Oh, I don't know. Well, why should they know anything about me? I'm just another person with flesh on that is living this life, hopefully for a long time, to serve the Lord and serve my family. I don't know what they should know about me. I'm pretty much an open book. I love Jesus. I'm persuaded by the Christian worldview.
Okay.
I wish everybody was persuaded by the Christian worldview as I am. I'm a little raw. I'm keeping it very G to PG for you, my brother. But yeah, it's okay. But I mean, I do prison ministry, Cedric. You know what I mean? So, and I deal with rough people.
Oh,
so,
I understand.
Yeah. And so, but I'm, you know, I love my children. I have a great relationship with my kids.
Yeah.
They're not perfect, but I believe this experiment called parenting is an interesting one, and we'll screw it up. Nobody can do it well without some set of ideas, and the ideas that we've decided to impose on our children are biblical ones, but not just. I mean, I challenge my kids. They have to suffer. They all train. They all have to be capable, and they have to be formidable. If you're not formidable, then you're not going to be effective in this world. And so I always tell people that you should train your children to be dangerous. What? Dangerous. For me, this is my definition. Dangerous with their faith, because the world has a faith. Well, it's competing for my kids' mind, will, and emotion. So they have to be dangerous. They're so persuaded by the worldview that we believe in, and I'm big on apologetics. I mean, I want them to know why we're Christians, not just because Papi and Mommy said so. And so be dangerous with your faith, be dangerous with their mind. That means they can critically think. People don't think anymore. If you can't spar with ideas in your mind, if you can't think out of a problem, if you can't think to bring a solution to a situation, well, then you're not going to be effective, right? And then also, God forbid, be dangerous with their body if they have to, meaning they can defend themselves, and they don't have a victim's mentality. So they all do boxing, wrestling. They train not just for themselves, but I also know, as you know, special needs kids, special needs adults are soft targets, and they can be taken advantage of and abused and hurt. And I want my kids to never feel like they can't defend their brother or themselves. And I don't want them to have a victim mentality, like, I'm stuck. Well, no, you're not stuck. You have your faith, you have your mind, and you have your hands and your body if you need to. So,
yeah.
I don't know if they needed to know that, but yeah.
Good stuff.
I mean,
here's one thing.
Sure.
You're super health conscious.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Very much.
And you live in a city like San Antonio with all this great food. How do you keep the balance? How do you...
It's not balance, it's persuasion. I mean, I dealt with a health scare. So I had a tumor when I was 7 months into office. It was cancerous. I talk about it now. And I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want people to think, oh, the DA is going to croak on us, you know. And I ended up going non-conventional, no chemo, no radiation. And yeah, I'm 10 years removed from it, thank God, healthy. But so there's fitness, there's conditioning, there's aesthetics, and then there's true health. And I've been focused on true health since then, real health. Because people saw me and said, man, you're so healthy. Because I looked a certain way, maybe. I presented a certain way, but that obviously, if you have a tumor, you're not healthy. I don't care what anybody says. And then I really took a deep dive into health and tumor and microbiome of your gut and eating regimens and longevity and people that live into their hundreds and centenarians and old school biblical, you know, Genesis 1:29 and things of that nature. And so I kind of really shifted. I mean, I shifted my eating, my supplementation, and I'm still on the journey. I mean, I'll change if I see evidence that will change me, but I ended up going, you know, holistic, so they say, and natural. The body is designed to heal, Cedric. I mean, it's just designed to heal. The intelligent design of this thing, the engine called the human body, fascinates me. I don't know how anyone can study the human body and think there's not intelligent design behind it. They have more faith than I do. If they think that you're an accident, all those trillions of cells that run in your body that make you focus on me with your eyes, which blew Darwin out of he didn't understand how the eyes could focus. He couldn't understand the peacock tail and the specificity, and I can go into detail. And so I just want to know how to treat this body so to me it's an act of worship, right?
The temple.
The temple.
Yeah.
1 Corinthians 6:19,
sure.
That's right. And so I treat it there, and I just, it's not a problem for me anymore. I mean, so I just honor God, so I'm very disciplined about it. I'm very disciplined about a lot of things, but about how I eat. Because I believe that we put better stuff in our cars than our bodies, and then we wonder why we're breaking down. But you cut yourself, your body heals. Your liver can heal. Your heart can clear up. It can. There's been studies from the Cleveland Clinic and Dr. Esselstyn. I have a guy in one of my Bible studies. In my Bible study, he's a doctor. He's a pulmonologist. And he's in this ministry group. And this lady was older lady was on a liver transplant list. And he prayed about it, and he's a beautiful man. His name is Mark. Beautiful dude. And he said, I'm going to donate a portion of my liver to her. He tells his mom, he's a Greek. Mom's like, what? She's from Greece. She's yelling at him, cussing him out. His fiance says, no, don't do it, His daughter says, Pop, no, don't do it. He said, I feel like I'm going to do it. So he goes through all the stuff. He donated, gosh, if I get it wrong, Marco, correct me, it's either 60 or 65% of his liver to her.
Wow.
And his liver grew back.
And it grew back.
Well, yes, the liver, can you imagine?
Yeah.
The intelligent design. Your heart clears up. People, you do what you want, you pray about it, but people with cancer, it just means damaged cells. So I really dove into that. So I guess that's something that people don't know about me.
Yeah, very good.
Yeah.
Folks that do know that you lost your brother Michael to a homicide some years ago. And of course, you've grown a lot since then. If you were able to speak to him now in the new Nico, this version, what would you say to him?
To my brother Mike?
Right.
I would say I will see you in heaven, because my mom had shared with me years later, and I'm so glad she shared this with me, that he had given his life to Christ. I thought he hadn't. So I didn't think I was going to see him in heaven, just to be honest. The rules don't apply to me differently than somebody else, or God's standards. But she told me that he went to a Christian school, which I'm glad he did, and he gave his life to Christ. So I would tell him then, hey Mike, I don't understand what the Lord is doing now, but I trust him. I don't have to like it. I'm going to miss you, I hope God keeps you in touch with my life. That's what I've prayed. I've prayed that, actually. I don't believe the people that have passed on can see us. I just don't. I don't think that's biblically supported. Mm-hmm. But I do pray. I said, Lord, will you keep Mike updated? We named my son Michael after Mike. I'm proud to be his brother. I regretted being too machismo. I never hugged Mike. I never told him I loved him. Because I was too much of a tough guy back then, because guys don't do that stuff. So, I'm gonna hug people, and I'm a hugger,
Yeah.
And I don't mind sharing my opinions, good or bad, with somebody, hopefully productive or, affirming. I believe in affirming people. All we do is criticize, and we don't affirm and build people up, and we're called biblically to build people up. Correct them, yes, but also build them up. He's in eternity. And so I hope that I have a lot more years to serve God from here and my family, and see my grandchildren grow that I don't have yet, and then walk off the battlefield. I don't want to be here forever.
St. Mary's University, Central Catholic High School, you're a San Antonian through and through. What does the city mean to you, and why have you left for a bigger market?
I just never had the desire to. Obviously, after my brother passed away, I was 20, in my early 20s, as you know. I was going to SAC, San Antonio College at the time. And I didn't want to leave my parents. I just couldn't. So I never had any thoughts of leaving San Antonio. It's just not the way. You come from a Lebanese Mexican background. You stay close to your family. So my pop tells me stories that in Lebanon, there wasn't a lot of space, so they'd build the parents would be here, the next child would build on top, the next child would build. So every day you left and you saw your parents on the way in and way out. You still live separately, but you saw your parents, and it's biblical to honor your daddy and your mom and dad. But you have to break away from them, obviously, to start your own family. But I wanted to break away, but not too far away, So I just never thought about it. But then after Mike passed away, I definitely didn't want to leave my younger brother. And he's 6 years younger than me. At the time, when I was 20-something, he was in his teens. And so I just never had that desire. I thought San Antonio, I don't know, San Antonio's not fast enough for me. What does that mean? I don't even know what that means. If you're talking about drugs and all that other stuff, there's plenty here, but I'm not advocating you do that stuff. And I just wasn't into it. I was in the nightclub business, because I was an owner, and I worked the nightclub business, but I didn't engage in the nightclub. Like, I don't drink. I've never drank. Never. I own 2 bars, and I don't drink. Yeah, I just never. But my grandfather had a problem with alcohol. My Uncle Louis had a problem with alcohol. My Uncle Eddie had a problem with alcohol. And I just used to see people get messed up, and then people take advantage of them. They get beat up in fights because they're intoxicated. I said, I don't want that. And then I can be funny or stupid without alcohol, so I didn't need it. I just was worried about that. So I just never drank. I never drank, and I still don't. So yeah, I wanted to. I thought San Antonio was my home, and my pop. It was good enough for my pop to be his home, and my mom. And my little brother didn't say he was going to go anywhere, so I wanted to be close to my family.
And this is where you'll always be?
Oh, until the Lord calls me home.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. We get the privilege of interviewing a lot of leaders on the show. One thing we've determined is all leaders are readers. They all have a favorite book. Their book is likely on their nightstand. What book's on your nightstand?
Well, I don't read as much as the other leaders, then I guess maybe I'm not much of a leader. I read law books, obviously, if I need to.
Sure.
I'm more of a...
Could be an audio book.
I'm a listener.
Sure.
That's the way my mind works. My mind works differently when I read. I'm taking my mind somewhere else, and I have to come back, and what did I read, and all that other stuff. I've read a number of books. Lately, I'm reading, it's more of a Christian book. It has to do with apologetics, meaning defending your faith. I'm inching through that one, Playing with Fire. And that one's taken a long time. I have to read through my book. I just finished writing a book, and it's not out yet, but I wrote a book. It's called R-Rated Christianity. And so I got to do one more read over of that one. It's kind of my journey and my faith and why I believe what I believe, and it kind of tackles tough topics that, that need to be talked about through a biblical lens. And then, of course, I bring in my personal journey there too. And then Scripture. I mean, I know that sounds corny to people, but I read Scripture every day and study it.
Okay.
That's the main thing for me.
What's your favorite passage?
Oh, I have too many of them. I have too many.
Just pick one.
Do not conform to the patterns of this world. Be transformed by the renewing of your mind. In this world you will have trouble, but have heart. I've overcome the world. John 16:33. I mean, James 1:2-4 is a big one for me. Count it pure joy when you go through trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith will produce perseverance. Let perseverance finish its work, so it'll be mature and lack nothing. Romans 5:3-5 says the same thing. Galatians 6:9 talks about persevering and not giving up hope and fighting till the end. Ephesians 5:21 talking about how a husband should love his wife. 1 Peter 3, 1 Peter 4 about being persecuted for doing good and being a Christian. I mean, I can go on and on. I mean, there's way too many. I love them all.
Yeah, good stuff.
Yeah.
Nico, appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on the show.
I'm honored. Thank you for having me. God bless you.
All right, take care of yourself. See you guys next time.